The narcissist builds their whole identity on something fake. It's not just that they lie to others, they lie to themselves all the time about who they are and what they stand for. They create a weak, made-up version of themselves, one that always needs praise to feel superior and to stay in control. They protect this fake image at all costs. That's why they react so harshly when criticized, why they change past events to fit their story, and why they avoid really looking at themselves. The second someone pokes a hole in their image, even a little, they face something they just can't handle. The truth. What's interesting is that many people believe narcissists are full of confidence. They confuse arrogance with self-confidence, trickery with leadership, and selfishness with strength. But in reality, a narcissist is deeply unsure of themselves. Their whole mental world is built to run away from one truth. They are not the perfect and amazing person they pretend to be, so when someone asks them a question that makes them face that truth, even one simple, well-placed question they are not ready to answer with honesty. They are only ready to twist things. Think about that. Most people, when asked about their actions or reasons, will think about it, even if it's uncomfortable. A mentally healthy person might be defensive at first, but after some time, they'll think about whether the question has a point. They want to know the truth, at least a little. But a narcissist? They just can't do that. They've built their whole life around avoiding reality. Instead, they react with anger, lies, or even attack. They'll do anything but face the truth your question touches on. That's why narcissists hate being questioned. It's not the question itself, it's what the question means. It's a threat to their control. It's a small crack in the image they've spent so long building. And most of all, it risks revealing what they've tried so hard to hide, that deep down they're not strong at all. They're afraid. Think about what happens when you ask a narcissist something that makes them take responsibility. Like, why do you always blame others when things go wrong? A normal person might stop, feel uncomfortable, and maybe even feel a little embarrassed. But eventually they would think it over. A narcissist don't. This one, they won't reflect, they'll hit back. They'll say it's your fault, they'll try to turn things around, saying you're the one causing trouble, by asking why? Because admitting even one small mistake would mean they're not perfect. And they can't deal with that. That's also why narcissists use gaslighting so much. They have to make you question your own memory, your thoughts, and your feelings, so they can keep believing their own lies. If they can get you to doubt yourself, they get to keep their made-up world intact. But when you ask the right question, one that shows the truth clearly, they lose control of the story. That's what causes them to spiral. This is important because a lot of people don't understand narcissistic behavior. They think maybe if I explain better, they'll get it. Or if I just show them I mean no harm, they'll treat me better. But the big mistake is thinking the narcissist is trying to understand you. They're not. They're trying to protect themselves. They don't want truth. They want control. And the moment they feel like they're losing it, they act out. Like a trapped animal trying to get power back any way they can. So when you ask a narcissist a question that forces them to see reality, you're doing something powerful. you're breaking the illusion for a second. Not just for you, but for them too. And in that moment, if you're really paying attention, you'll see something real. You'll see fear in their eyes. You'll notice the cracks in the image they've built, because in that instant, they're faced with the one thing they run from their whole life. The truth about who they really are. But here's the thing. What you do after you ask the question matters just as much. If you start arguing, defending yourself, or trying to explain, you give them a way out. That gives them a chance to twist things again. The real power is in staying quiet. Let the question sit. Let them feel it. Watch how they react. Don't just listen to what they say, because their words will always try to bring control back to them. But their reaction, that's where the real truth is. And once you understand this, you won't fall for their tricks again. Because narcissists don't fear fights. They don't fear yelling or even conflict. They often enjoy that. What scares them most is being exposed. And sometimes all it takes to expose them is a simple, honest question. So the next time you're dealing with someone who bends reality, avoids taking blame, plays mind games, and wants to stay in control, remember this. You don't have to argue or fight. You just need to ask the right question. Then watch them wrestle with the truth they refuse to face. Their greatest fear isn't confrontation, it's exposure. And exposure doesn't always need to be loud or dramatic. Often, the most powerful way to shine a light on a narcissist is to ask them something they can't truthfully answer. Not because they don't know the answer, but because telling the truth would break apart the image they've spent their life building. That's when their panic starts to show. A narcissist lives in a world of lies, first to themselves, then to everyone else. They're constantly trying to control how people see them. That's why they're such good manipulators. That's why they change the story to match their version of events. It's not just about controlling you, it's about holding together their weak sense of self. And when you ask a question that slices through that lie, they see it as dangerous. You're not just questioning them, you are threatening the entire structure they've built. A simple question doesn't have to be rude or loud. In fact, the calmer and more straightforward it is, the more powerful it becomes. Imagine asking something like, why do you think nothing is ever your fault? On the surface, that sounds like a normal question. It's direct, but not aggressive. But to a narcissist, it's like pulling the rug out from under them. Because that question makes them look at something they can't afford to admit. A healthy person might get defensive at first, but eventually say something like, maybe I do have trouble admitting when I'm wrong. That shows they can self-reflect. It means they're still connected to reality. But a narcissist, they can't go there. Because the moment they admit one flaw, the entire fake structure starts falling apart. So what do instead? They attack. They deflect. They say, oh, so now I'm the villain? You're always blaming me? Maybe if you weren't so sensitive, we wouldn't be having this talk. See what they're doing? They're not answering the question. They're trying to steer the conversation in a direction they can win, where they're in charge again. This tells you something important. Someone who can't handle being questioned is someone who can't handle reality. And once you see this, you'll never see the narcissist the same way again. You'll stop seeing them as powerful. You'll start seeing the fear behind the mask. And when they lose control, even for a moment, you'll see it. Their voice gets louder, their words get more frantic, they desperately try to grab back the control, they might insult you, they might act like a victim, they might storm out, no matter how they react. Their goal is always the same: to avoid answering your question. But here's what's really powerful. Once you see that panic, you can't unsee it. It changes everything. Because once you realize that their power is fake, once you notice the fear beneath their attitude, they can't control you anymore. You stop chasing their approval. You stop trying to explain yourself. You stop believing in the act they are putting on. And in that moment, everything shifts. The fight moment is a very strong tool because it doesn't just show others who the narcissist truly is. It shows you who they are. And that is what really sets you free. The truth is plain. If someone can't handle being questioned, they can't handle being truly understood. And someone who can't be understood can never give you real connection, real honesty, or real love. So don't waste your time hoping a narcissist will answer you truthfully. Just ask the question and pay attention to how they respond. A narcissist's world is built on shaky ground. An illusion they must keep alive, no matter what. But here's what many don't realize. The illusion isn't only for everyone else. It's for themselves too. They must believe it. That's why they explode when they are questioned. It's not only about shaping how you see them, it's about avoiding a truth they cannot afford to admit. And this is when their panic really starts to take form. You see, a narcissist lives inside a tightly controlled space they've built. A world where they are always right, always justified, always the victim or the hero, but never the one at fault. It's like a mental fortress. And they go to extreme lengths to keep it secure. They surround themselves with people who won't challenge them. They change the past if they have to. They blame others for their own flaws, so they don't have to face themselves. But all of this depends on one thing: your involvement. That's the main part. A narcissist doesn't stand alone. Their sense of self is completely connected to the people around them, to how they are seen by others. And when you ask something that disrupts this balance, when you refuse to believe their version of the story, something powerful happens. They begin to fall apart. Not right away, not clearly, but the cracks start to form. Because when you reveal the truth about a narcissist, you're not only helping yourself, you're making them look at what they've been running from their whole life. And for them, that's a major threat. That's why they panic. That's why they respond with anger, lies, ignoring you, or desperate ways to get back in control. Because to them, control isn't just what they like. It's what they need to survive. A narcissist cannot bear to see themselves honestly. That's why they stay busy with distractions. Why they're always chasing approval, attention, or power. It's not because they are confident or secure. It's because they are empty inside. The moment they stop getting attention from others, all they're left with is themselves. And that is a reality they can't stand. So when you ask a question that forces them to admit their double standards, their lies, their inability to own up to anything. You are shaking the ground beneath their feet. You're pushing them to face something they've tried to escape for years, maybe even their whole life. And that's why their panic becomes so intense. Now, look carefully at what happens in these moments. Usually their first reaction is anger, because anger is their way to take back control. It's a tool to scare you into silence. If that doesn't work, they move to tricks, to confuse you, make you doubt yourself. They'll change the subject, bring up old issues, or try to make you the one to blame. And if that fails, if you stay calm, if you don't fall into their trap, then comes the fear, the desperation, the sudden awareness that they are losing their grip. And this is when their breakdown begins. Because when a narcissist realizes they can't control you anymore, when they feel you slipping out of their control, they start to fall apart. They may try to get back at you, spread lies about you, play the victim, act out dramatically, but it won't matter, because now you see the truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why uncovering a narcissist is so powerful, not because it changes them, they'll fight that with everything they have, but because it changes you. You stop making excuses for them. You stop trying to help or fix them. You stop believing the mask they've been wearing. And just that alone is enough to break their power over you. Because in the end, what scares a narcissist the most is not being alone. It's not even losing control. Their biggest fear is the truth. And the moment you stop playing along with their illusion, you make them face it. And that's when the downfall begins. A narcissist's reality is built on something very weak. It depends fully on how others see them. They're not people who can function alone. They need others to feed them praise, approval, and control. And when you expose them, when you ask the kind of question that forces them to see the lies in their own story, you do more than just challenge them. You start to take apart the fantasy they've built their whole life. The reason this hurts a narcissist so deeply is because their entire self-images depends on lies. Lies they tell others and lies they tell themselves. They don't deal with the real world the way emotionally healthy people do. A healthy person sees their flaws, learns from mistakes, and grows. A narcissist can't do that. Their sense of self is so weak, so built on what others think, that even the smallest truth can feel like a total collapse. So when you challenge them, when you go straight to the truth and don't let up, they panic. But it's not just the fear of you seeing them clearly, it's the fear of seeing themselves. Because deep down, behind all the arrogance and control, there's a deep emptiness they will do anything to avoid. That's why they lash out. That's why they lie, turn things around, and try to make you the problem. It's all part of trying to hold on to their false image. And this is really important to know. A narcissist's reaction to being exposed isn't planned like their usual tricks. It's not a smart strategy, it's panic, it's instinct. They freak out because they don't know any other way to deal with it. But here's where things get even more interesting. If you don't back down, if you stay calm and don't let their tricks pull you in, something changes. The narcissist starts to lose the story they've been controlling. Their actions become more wild, their lies more obvious, They might even contradict themselves. They're just trying anything to get back in charge. Because at the core, narcissists aren't stable. They don't have a solid sense of self. They're like actors who've forgotten who they really are without the role they're playing. They need others to reflect back the image they want to believe. But when you stop doing that, when you expose them and stop being part of their story, you force them to face something they never wanted to see. The truth. Now, a lot of people think that exposing a narcissist will lead to some kind of breakthrough, that maybe they'll finally face their flaws and change. But that's not what happens. A narcissist can't afford to face their flaws. If they did, they'd have to take responsibility. And that's something they've spent their life avoiding. So instead, they double down. They cling even harder to their lies. They may become even more aggressive, more dramatic, more manipulative. But this is also when their downfall starts. Because once their tactics don't work anymore, once they can't control or manipulate the way they used to, they start to break down. Their hunger for attention grows stronger. They might look for new people to manipulate, but things won't be the same. The mask has cracks now. And whether they admit it or not, something inside them knows they've been exposed. And that's when they're at their weakest. Not because they're going to change, but because they're now fighting a truth they cannot beat. The truth is out there, and once it's out, it doesn't go back in. So if you ever wonder whether it's worth it to call out a narcissist, remember this. Their power doesn't come from who they are. It comes from who they can convince you they are. The moment you stop believing them, the moment you stop playing along, their fantasy starts to fall apart. And when that happens, their panic takes over. Their world starts to fall apart. Because the one thing a narcissist cannot survive is the truth. When you reveal them, when you make them face something they can't twist or control, their grip starts to weaken. This isn't just a little discomfort for them. It's a major crack in the mental fortress they've spent their whole life putting together. You have to see that narcissists don't see the world like you do. They don't treat others as real people with their own emotions, needs, or views. Instead, they see people as objects, tools for attention, power, or convenience. They don't build real relationships, they build setups. Controlled situations where they are always the focus. So what happens when that setup is thrown off? What happens when you, the person they thought was under their thumb, suddenly stop playing along? It's like cutting the strings of a puppet. The whole act falls apart, and the narcissist, who worked so hard to always be in charge, finds themselves in the one spot they fear the most, without control. Now here's where it becomes deeper. A narcissist's panic isn't just about feelings. It's about their very sense of self. They aren't only scared of being revealed to others, they're terrified of being revealed to themselves. The big, confident image they show the world isn't just a trick for others. It's something they themselves need to believe in. Without it, they'd have to admit to themselves that deep down they don't feel good enough. And that's something they simply cannot deal with. So when you ask that one question that doesn't fit, when you point out something that doesn't match in their carefully shaped story, you're not just catching them in a lie, you're holding up a mirror. And what they see in that mirror is frightening. Because behind all the pride, all the mind games, or the fake confidence. What's really inside a narcissist is a painful emptiness. A hollow space they spend every day trying to avoid. That's why they explode with such anger and panic. It's not only about keeping their good name or holding power over you. It's about hiding from the truth. A truth that if they really faced it, would break them. And this is what eventually causes their fall. When a narcissist is uncovered, the usual moves: blame games, twisting facts, shifting guilt, stop working. People begin to catch on. The cracks in their mask start to show, not just to the outside world, but to the narcissists themselves. And the harder they try to get control back, the more wild and unpredictable they get. You'll see this happen again and again. A narcissist, once revealed, doesn't reflect or grow. They fall apart. They lash out. They panic. They try hard to put their broken world back together. But doing that only speeds up their breakdown. And that's why showing who they really are is such a strong act. Once the mask is removed, it can't be fully put back on. Once someone sees what's behind the act, the narcissist can't return to the old power they used to have. They might try. They might find new people to fool, create new stories, look for new people to praise them, but something inside has shifted. The exposure stays with them. The truth doesn't leave. And deep down, under all their denial, they know it. So if you ever wonder if it's worth it, if showing the truth about a narcissist really matters, remember this: their power is not in who they are. It's in who they get you to believe they are. The second you stop believing the illusion, the moment you stop playing your role in their story, you've already beaten them. Because the truth, once revealed, stays. And for someone like that, truth is their biggest fear. A narcissist builds their whole life around the lie that they are better than others, that they are always right, always above criticism. But here's the strange part. That belief is not strength, it's weakness dressed up. It's something fake they have to keep alive at all costs. Because underneath all of it, they are just scared people, hanging on to a fake world. And when you show the lie for what it is, when you force them to see a truth they can't twist, you start a chain of events they can't stop. Understand this clearly. A narcissist doesn't just enjoy lying or controlling people, they need to do it. Their world isn't built on true confidence, kindness or self-awareness. It's built on lies, ego boosting, and the constant hiding of their true self. That's why being exposed is their biggest fear. When someone truly sees what they are hiding, it shakes their whole sense of being. When you show their real side to others, and more painfully to themselves, it breaks something deep inside. It removes their strongest weapon, the power to control how others see them. And without that, they are exposed. And exposure is something they simply cannot handle. That's why they act with so much rage when challenged. If they were really as strong and confident as they claim, they wouldn't care about a little criticism. But they do. They blow up. They lose it. They act like the world is ending. Why? Because they know. Deep down they know that everything they show off is fake. And when someone points that out, even just a little, their whole mind goes into crisis mode. And here's the thing. When they try to hide it, when they fight harder to keep the lie going, they only make it clearer that it is a lie. Their angry responses, their crazy behavior, their wild need to be in charge again, it all becomes proof that they are not who they say they are. This is the strange truth about narcissists. In trying to keep the truth hidden, they accidentally let it slip. And that brings us to what they can't avoid. Once they're exposed, once they are made to see, even if just a little, that they are not as in control as they pretend to be, things start to fall apart. And you don't have to do anything more. It happens by itself. They begin to break down from within, because their identity isn't built to survive in the real world. It all starts with fear. They become extremely alert about how others see them. Every conversation feels like a test to prove they are still in charge. They start making up more lies, acting over the top, trying to cover the truth in ways that make them seem even more fake. Then comes the chaos. Since they can't look at themselves honestly, since they can't accept any personal flaws without falling apart, they turn their blame outward. They attack the people around them, even the ones they need to feel good about themselves. They isolate themselves. They ruin the connections that once kept them standing. And finally comes the collapse. Sometimes it's slow. They push everyone away until there's no one left but their own empty thoughts. Sometimes it's fast, a total disaster of bad choices and obvious failures that ruin their image. Either way, the ending is the same. They don't lose because someone beats them. They lose because their own actions destroy them. So what does this mean for you? It means that the strongest thing you can do is not seek revenge, or argue, or shout. It's simply to stand by the truth. Because the truth doesn't need tricks or force. It just needs to be seen. And once it is seen, it changes everything. So when you show the truth about a narcissist, when you let the illusion fall apart, you're not just opening other people's eyes. You're holding up the mirror to the one person who can't stand to look into it, the narcissist. And once they're faced with their real self, they will either fall apart quietly or lash out in rage. But either way, they will destroy themselves. Because in the end, the thing that finishes a narcissist is not you. It's the truth they cannot live with.